And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Woodland Stud. Great supporters of the show. Of course, we are inside 1 week out from the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup, the biggest race in Australasia. Joining me from the Auckland studio is Michael Guerin. Of course, Michael, only a few sleeps to go now till we get to the big one, the 116th running of this great race. Very good evening to you.
Evening, Greg. Big hi to everybody around the country. I hope your Melbourne Cup Day hangover wasn't too bad. It's the Wednesday before the Cup meeting always has a couple of different parts to it. One of them is the barrier draw, which comes out around just after lunchtime. Greg, that probably didn't change the market for the Cup very much, but one barrier draw and then one trial, which would have changed the markets for a Group 1 on Tuesday, was the Trotters. Sunday Sun didn't get the best of the draws, not the best of the trials, Greg. He's probably the horse out of today who's lost the most heading into Tuesday.
Yeah, hard to argue with that, Michael. And, of course, we'll have coverage of that, plus a comment from trainer Robert Dunn. But let's get straight into the Cup trial. And it was held over my left shoulder only about 2.5 hours ago. You may have caught it on trackside. There's Henry Hubert missing away. Slightly tardily away was Spankham. He was fine, but he did bobble for a couple of strides. Smoke and By goes to the lead here, and the Fixer. And a very quick beginning, Michael, once again, off the unruly from Chase Auckland. That's Ultimate Sniper rolling into a gallop there too. So he goes into the junior free-for-all on Cup Day. The other significant part of that standing start was AG's White Sox again, Michael. He's got the inside second row draw in the Cup, but he tends to pace away and then sort of rolls into a canter. He can't afford to be doing that in 6 days' time.
No, he can't, Greg, and as we see them heading down the back straight for the first time, clearly the two favourites are going to dominate the market. They're around $2 and $3.20, so they're going to take about 60 to 70% of the money in the market by the time that evens out and a bit more percentage comes in. Well, they both stepped away well. Spanker bobbled for a couple of strides, but found his hopples pretty quickly after that. The Fixer excellently away, and if he does that again, you would suggest, Greg, those two horses, barriers 5 and 6, have the chance to get in front of most of their key rivals. Interesting, Chase Auckland is beginning well. Of course, he's off the unruly in the Cup, which will be far more congested. But here, Greg, is maybe the most telling moment outside of the standing start. Natalie Rasmussen says, look, I don't want to be sitting in the trail. This horse, the Fixer, the defending champion, he needs a run. We want to see what's in the tank. She pulls out here and goes around. That would suggest to me they were still looking to hone his fitness a couple of points. And I thought Greg very, very good here. Looked tighter than Ashburton. So when you're looking at this, you're thinking, okay, this is his trial to lose, because the main danger, and some would say the main Cup danger, is fall back on the inside. But I tell you what, now getting out into the 1-1, he was very, very good here, Greg, I thought, Spankham, because the horse who now sits in the trail had a decent head start on him.
Yeah, he did, and Natalie did want to have a decent hit out. You're absolutely right. To the eye, before he went out onto the track, you could see the difference in the Fixer from Ashburton. But Ricky May gave them a searching run down the back, hooking out into the 3 out and one out and 3 back position now as Spankham. Directly behind him is Mark Shard, and he makes up considerable ground as well. But AG's White Sox, after having to make that initial move, leads them up here. Henry Hubert to his outside, the Fixer in the trail and getting a nice run. You'll note 3 back on the fence. This is probably a good thing, Michael, for Chase Auckland too, being amongst a field, because so often we've seen him this season either in front or outside the leader. And Spankham gets to the middle of the track. We will get Trevor Wilkes to call them home over the last couple of 100 metres.
AG's White Sox, the Fixers got through. Here comes Spankham coming down the outside. In between them, then Henry Herbert. Down the straight, they're 3 abreast, but Spankham and getting up on the inside, the Fixer down to the post. Spankham wins it narrowly over the Fixer, and that'd be followed close up AG's White Sox, Smoking By.
So 3:16 home and 56-1, 26-9. Michael, I was pretty happy with that as from a viewer and a punting point of view, if you like, for a Cup trial, because so often they become just pedestrian affairs where they all land on the markers, stay there, sprint home in 26 seconds and nothing really happens. There's a bit to talk about out of that trial.
Well, there is, and I'm sorry, I did spank him one further place forward than he was there. He was back on the inside, and it was Ultimate Sniper. There was a lot of blue colours in that trial, Greg, as there is on the show at the moment. I thought he was really good, and I saw nothing to suggest there he's still not clearly the horse to beat in the Cup, and I saw nothing to suggest that just as clearly the fixer has emerged after a slightly slow start to the spring as the danger. I liked what I saw from Chase Auckland, but is he going to come out and beat these horses? I think he's in that third to fourth line. I doubt anybody, Greg, apart from our Australian friends, is going to find anything in their rankings but 1, 2, Spank him or the fixer, either way around, and we have slightly different opinions on that, and then a clump, and that clump could contain San Carlo, Classy Brigade, and probably Chase Auckland as the most likely bunch for many people, Greg. After that, you start looking for reasons horses can win the Cup rather than using what we're seeing so far this spring.
All right, let's get the comments from all of those contenders for the Cup that went round in the Cup trial today. Mark, he's had a brilliant preparation and today just about tops it off.
Yeah, everything's gone perfectly with him, Craig, so we've got no excuses, and he was a little typical of him. He was a real little tradesman today and just did everything right. What
about the start? He did pace away a little bit roughly. Does that concern you at all, or is that just him?
Well, no, if you catch it right, he can begin quick, and he can just bobble a little bit, but never sort of lose a significant amount of ground.
In terms of a Cup preparation, Mark, have you had one go better? Probably with Lazarus, yes, but it's just about ideal.
It has been, Greg, and he hasn't had punishing runs. He's sort of had nice trips and got through his races well, so that's always a plus. And, you know, as you can see now, he's just jumped out of the skin.
Yeah, he certainly is. What about barrier draw-wise? About the middle is where you are, slightly wider than that, but that's ideal too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm happy with the draw, so as long as we get away to a good start, that'll be the main thing.
Whilst the preparation might not have been ideal, he really looks like he's peaking.
Oh yeah, Greg, and I think today was good too. It was a nice enough hit out for him. Just made him do that little bit of mid-race work, just so as he wasn't getting a too cushy a run just back on the fence. Hit the line solid. He zipped up pretty quick. It was a pretty slippery furlong. He's pretty happy. He's having a good blow and it'll do him good.
Right, in terms of where he was this time last year, going into the Tuesday, are you as pleased?
Yeah. Yeah.
Barrier draw-wise, it would appear almost perfect for him because he's beginning very quickly.
Oh, most definitely, Greg. Look, he's a very safe beginner. I actually put the whip on him early today just to sort of make him real serious. And he's solid. He's really with you, and he's so kind and sensible. Like walking around at the start, you think the old guy's asleep, but then when you line him up ready to go, you can actually drive him out early. So I think out there's good. I'll come in a little bit later. I won't be first one in, and it should really suit.
That canning away again.
Yeah, well, he always paces away. He does, you know, goes away and then he does that canter after. And we've tried everything, to be fair, but it just doesn't seem to be working. So I don't know what we do to be.
I tell you what, Rick, he's gone very well, very good after that.
Yeah, well, Greg told me to give him a bit of a run. They went quite slow early, but I know he's right up with them. He's just got to do things right.
If he does on Tuesday, and I know he's got an awkward draw inside second row, he'll be right in this Cup.
Yeah, no, I've always thought he would, especially the last two, you know, like at Ashburton he went super and, you know, he is. He's beat them before and I think, you know, he's right in it if things go right.
Nice Cup trial.
Yeah, he went really good. We sort of got back a wee bit. He's never stepped real good from the fence, so we're a little bit slow away, but followed them round off a pretty slick time and got home good round the wide.
What about the second row on Cup day? Do you think that might suit him?
Hey, look, it might, you know, he's stepped from the second row at home before with me a couple of times and he steps quick enough that he can just punch straight through. So, look, I've always been optimistic going into Cup day, but you do need that luck. Like, it can be hard to punch your way through there, but if he gets handy early enough and gets a good suck along, he's going to be right there on the day.
Well, he's gone terrific.
Yeah, really happy with that, Greg. He made a few wee changes and they worked today, just hopefully they work next week.
One of the changes was the driver, but that won't be the case on Tuesday.
No, that won't be. No, just you put the sandbag on trial day and take it off for the race day. No, but you know, really happy with that.
Yeah, right. So Matt Anderson will be in the bike, and in terms of a Cup preparation, I know he's been under the radar a wee bit, but you're quietly confident he'll be competitive.
Absolutely, like he'll follow speed all day, and he's sort of just coming right at the right time. And he's a wee bit disappointing the other day at Ashburton, but saying that runner, they ran a half of 54, and he's out 3 wide. He can't get much quicker than that. So, no, I'm really happy with that, and hopefully all go for Tuesday.
Plenty of ticks there, Tim, starting with the barrier.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's obviously been an obstacle for him throughout the season, but as I said earlier, once he gets that first step in, he can be really quick. So, credit to Mark and Natalie. Looks like the unruly's paid dividends. The last 3 starts now, he's got it right, and he got it right pretty quickly today. So hopefully that's, mentally for the horse, I think going towards Tuesday, that's exactly what he needed today.
All right, so he's led, he's taken a trail, ended up through the fence. That'd be a good thing for him too, and he's hit the line full of running.
Yeah, that's right. I probably wasn't right up Natalie's clacker at the finish, but, still had the plugs in and had the bits still in his mouth, and, the sectionals that hit the watch, they were pretty pleasing. So
it was a bit different for a cup trial. There were a few moves.
Yeah, there was. They went along a bit for a change, but my fellow was still pretty good. It blew it badly the last furlong, but he hasn't had the ideal prep going into a cup, Greg, so he would have needed that today. So hopefully he can have a cushy run on next Tuesday, and he'll be there.
So that was the latest of the interviews there with John Dunn. Now I can confirm he will drive Classy Brigade, who of course we'll see in a moment, taking out the Alabar Kaikoura Cup on Monday, Michael. But plenty of confidence obviously there from Mark Purdon and Natalie Rasmussen. And as you said before, it's going to be incredibly hard to find anyone who's not going to be picking one of those two to win it.
Yeah, I think, Greg, you go to the Cup trial and you're hoping your horse doesn't go bad. I don't think anybody cares too much if you're 7th at the top of the lane and you finish 4th. It doesn't matter all that much. But I think the one thing you don't want to see is your horse going backwards or galloping away. So I think most people there would be relatively happy enough with how things went. And then, Greg, you say, OK, so the horses seem to be where they need to be, with the exception of Henry Hubert. Maybe he's not right at his peak. And of course, Ultimate Sniper, who did gallop away, is in the junior free-for-all. So then you go back to the barrier draw, Greg, and you start to say to yourself, well, who's been the winners and losers out of that? Obviously, the losers have been Mark Shard and AG's White Sox. That doesn't help. Chase Auckland was always going to be on the second line, and he's stepping pretty well, but it's still a handicap, Greg. And then most of the rest are much of a muchness. I think the winner out of the barrier draw, Greg, apart from the 2 favourites, has been Classy Brigade. He's out there, he won't have to stand for long, he's very quick. He stepped quickly from a wide draw at Kaikoura. And I can see him blasting across the lead, and to be honest, I think most other drivers would be comfortable with that, Greg, because I don't think he would stay in front over 2 miles. I don't think they could win if they did that. The horse I would be worried about is San Carlo. Now, San Carlo, for those who haven't seen him, comes in from Victoria. He's very, very strong, and he's a good, rugged 9-year-old. A little bit like a skinnier version of Flashing Red. But, Greg, he's had 1 standing start trial in his life. He's never had a standing start race. And in the longest pre-start muck around we usually have at the entire season, being the New Zealand Cup, I think coming up in Barrier 1's really, really tricky. So I rang Beck Barkley, his 28-year-old driver, who's been to Cup Day before. She was here when her good friend Kieran Manning won with Arden Rooney a couple of years ago. And she said, I don't think it'll bother him. Murray, as they call him, is quite laid back and relaxed. But, Greg, Cup Day's Cup Day. If you're a Victorian horse, you haven't seen 20,000 people in one spot before. He hasn't seen Barrier 1, and the trial he did have was less than a month ago, and there were only 2 rivals. So he's about $7 to $9 third favourite, Greg. I don't think Barrier 1 helps. There's no proof of that. I have no data to say he's going to gallop away, Greg, but he's going to be standing for an awfully long time and putting himself and Beck in a situation they've never been in before.
No, you're not wrong there. And a horse that's had that situation in his last 2, Michael, will have a new driver, our Uncle Sam, to be driven by Mark Jones, who's yet to have success like his father did in this race a couple of times, but he has had 14 drives and he's a world driving champion. And speaking with Chris Frisby, he said, to be fair to Anthony, he hasn't driven a lot of horses from a standing start, and they want to give this horse every opportunity to step away. So we haven't seen the best of him here. We know he's a bona fide Group 1 winner and Group 1 performer. So what do you make of the Mark Jones appointment to have a steer behind him in the big one?
I think it's really mature because obviously Anthony Frisby's not a full-time driver. It's not his job. We heard that on the box seat a few weeks ago. So good on him. He's showed the nous and the maturity to get off the horse because he doesn't think he can do the best by him. In saying that, Mark doesn't drive a lot these days. and he won't do anything wrong by the horse, but I think it might need more than Mark's help. I think most of the Australian horses coming across here are going to be better suited by the Inter-Dominion Series or the Free-for-All on Friday, Greg. I just think these standing starts are so foreign to these horses that even if it's not a negative, it's definitely not a positive, where it's a positive for the fixer. What Natalie said there about throwing the reins at him and tapping him up after the start, that's really crucial to me, Greg. If she's confident enough to do that, then he's the most likely horse to get to a Classy Brigade, or whoever leads first, a Nandolo, whoever that may be, and get there first, Greg, and probably get the lead. He did that last year, was able to get the trail behind Dream About Me and win the Cup. All of a sudden, we're starting to see a same pattern emerging here. I'm not saying he's better than Spankham, but I think there's a really good chance, Greg, if San Carlo's not quick away, that we could see the two Purton Rasmussen horses leading and trailing at some stage. Because when you go down through that book, unless John Dunn, who's now, as you said, driving Classy Brigade, it's hard to make a case that many other horses outside of San Carlo would park them, and I have a gut feeling Barrier One's not going to suit him, and therefore maybe give him the chance to do that.
As we saw in the Ashburton Flying Stakes, where they led and trailed in that very good race. OK, let's go back to Kaikoura on Monday. It was the Alabar Kaikoura Cup, and they turned for home. We had Cruz Bromack, who had to move and sit parked outside a very brave Classy Brigade, who well and truly gets his Cup campaign back on track.
Still Classy Brigade leads at half a length. Cruz Bromack, another masterpiece in 888, but it's Classy Brigade's Kaikoura Cup. Classy Brigade for John and Robert Dunn beat home.
Congratulations, John. Won at the start, wasn't it? He is a very good exponent of that part of the game, and once you got the front, he appeared to be travelling beautifully.
Yeah, he was, like I say, go great beginning, and I actually got some cheap sectionals. Not like me, normally I run them too hard, but we sort of strolled around and run a quick half, so it was a good effort to bounce back after last time's disappointment too.
Yeah, you've had some challenges with him, you and your father, so you've clearly got him back on track now for the Cup, where the start again so imperative, so a front row draw would be nice.
Yeah, it would be, especially that stand-start manners, but like you say, we're pretty lucky. Nigel McGrath did a great job with this horse as a 2, 3 and 4-year-old, not often horses like this walk into the barn. So we're just sort of finishing it off, and he's sort of relishing on the beach.
He did it under his own steam as well, so it shouldn't be a hard run for him going forward to the Cup.
No, it'll be a great confidence run, and like you say, the last 50 is actually going away again. So that's good confidence builder for him.
And for you as well, your second Alabar Kaikoura Cup, so congratulations to you.
Thanks for that, Greg.
We know the track, it's a bit of a novelty up there, and Michael, once you landed in the first 2 or 3, you had to be given every possible chance, and once that horse landed in front, particularly of Cruz Bromack, who I thought was pretty brave, he was the one to run down and they couldn't.
What you should do, Greg, what all punters should be made to do before they're allowed to access their TOB account to bet on Kaikoura is be forced to watch Kaikoura from the year before. Because you can kid yourself sometimes, oh, this can come from back in the field and it'll be good enough, and they just aren't. The leaders just win all day, Greg, and it just happens because the track, it's not because it's unfair, it's just fast, and it's still not that well cambered. So once he stepped like this, and this is a wideish barrier draw we're seeing for Classy Brigade, and he's going to have the same number on his back on Tuesday, once he stepped like that, this was his race to lose. And you're right, Cruz Bromack was good, another masterpiece, proved that he needs a few more goes around the ring before he's ready to be a New Zealand Cup type horse, and outside the rest of them I thought 888 was really good, and he can win the junior free-for-all on Tuesday. Greg, when you look at this footage, there's only one question that matters out of that race for me, and well done to Robert Dunn, of course. It was career win 1500 on the day for him. Would John Dunn want to hold the front in a New Zealand Cup, knowing that not 1 but 2 All-Stars might come have a look at him, then potentially a San Carlo might come have a look at him, and he maybe couldn't win the race? Or does he say, I'm happy to trail the fixer? Or let's say he gets there, and we're talking about possible scenarios. I'm happy to trail the fixer, happy to trail Spankham, and there's an awful lot of money for running second or third here. So I know they want to win the race. What do you think he would do if he led, Greg?
Oh, I don't think he'd want to stay there for the entirety, for the exact reasons you've said, because there will be pressure, probably from the 3 horses you mentioned. So I think he'd take a trail, I absolutely do, but that gives him a terrific place chance. And just having a look at what it is, you know, you've got 390,000 to win in a $750,000 race, but it's 100,000 for second and 50,000 for third. So you want to give your horse your best possible chance to get the maximum result, and you're right, Michael, he might be in the right spot and therefore is a terrific place chance in it. I'm not surprised that John's opted to drive him because he's on the way up, whereas Henry Hubert, as we saw in the trial, his campaign's been a challenge, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, it's also a cup that's starting to look a lot more like last year's cup, who the fixer won, because we're thinking he's going to be well mannered. And then standing starts are always a flip of a coin, but we're thinking he's going to be well mannered. So if he is, then he puts himself on a nice slot. And then you've got Spankham, who you think will be in a nice slot. And then San Carlo, Greg, starts to play the Kaikoura role, which is maybe the most likely attacker, as the Australians are wont to do. And then you start thinking to yourself, well, it's going to be an awfully hard race for anything else coming wide. And when you go through these horses, Hale Christian and Henry Hubert and you know, horses like Classy Brigade, if they're wide on the track, you don't want to know about them. But if they're up against the marker pegs, any one of those horses could run a third, and that includes our Uncle Sam, Mark Shard even. So, Greg, all of that feels a little bit like last year, where the 3 at the top of the straight who are 1, 2, 3 ran 1, 2, 3. The one horse who is an enigma is Chase Auckland, because he's one of the few horses to have beaten Spankham fair and square as an off-level marks in the last couple of years, or off similar type runs. And he's a horse, Greg, who, if he launches, tends to get up on the nickel and want to go quicker. Maybe he's the one horse who are not counting on getting there, who could potentially, after a lap, stroll to the front. And I think he's the horse in the race who, if I am betting on the 2 favourites, or one of the 2 favourites, I'll be likely to have my 10% saver on, because I think he'll be $15. But I do think he's a horse who can win the Cup, as opposed to some others here who would surprise me if they did.
Yeah, exactly. And the way he's stepping from the unruly, he could well work around the team, work around the field rather, pretty quickly. Let's hear from the beaten drivers out of the Alabar Kaikoura Cup. Well, his campaign's back on track.
It is, Greg. Yeah, happy with him today. Did everything right, and a little bit awkward around the last corner, but once we straightened, he tried hard.
Yeah, the sectionals in the closing sort of 400 metres meant it was going to be hard to make ground of a horse like Classy Brigade, who you know well enough.
Absolutely, yeah, he's raced good all season, and of course he stepped away so good and made the front, he was always going to be hard to catch.
David, he's gone terrific.
Yeah, no, really happy with his run. You know, it's pretty soft early, but he's got up the lane really good, so I'm happy with him and where he's at. You know, it's only his 3rd start in this season. He seems to be improving all the time.
Yeah, with a long-term range of obviously going to the free-for-all and then the Inter-Dominions, which at home is going to be right up his alley.
Oh, that's right, you know, and hopefully we get him there spot on.
Tim, on the face of it, he appeared to have every chance.
You know, it's definitely did right, Greg. You know, stepped beautifully again and put himself behind the leader and the winner. So, you know, no complaints. He had a great run, and you know he tried hard, but you know it's hard to make ground on 26 quarter here. So, you know, he's still gone okay, but you know he needed to improve.
Blair, given his preparation for this, that was quite pleasing.
Yeah, it was for a change, Greg. You know, he's actually come out and found the line on some pretty fast quarters. So, you know, Paul's happy, and you know, he'll carry his campaign on to the Cup now.
So Blair Orange, who of course will drive Cruise Bromac, so Blake Fitzpatrick will get his chance in the New Zealand Cup aboard Hale Christian. He's the man who looks after Hale when he does go to Sydney, and he is booked to fly there on the 22nd of November and likely to race about a week later. So here's the market, Michael. Flip of the coin, Spankham, $3.20. I see them getting pretty close to parity come start time of 5:12, or 12 minutes past 5 rather, on Tuesday. Reckon they'll be 240, maybe 260, somewhere in that vicinity. Do you see it similarly?
I think the percentage, Greg, would suggest that one of them's going to stay closer to the mark and the other one has to drift, because this market will be set to about 138, 139%. I haven't counted it up, but obviously the total will play down to 116.5. So I think there'll be no money at all for a lot of horses in the race. And one horse who will tighten will be Uncle Sam. He won't start $100. There's no chance of that, because he's got name recognition. He's run second in a Hunter Cup, and he's won a Bohemian Crystal when he's run second in Inter-Dominion. So I think he's the horse who will start tighter. I wouldn't be surprised if Spankham hovered around that $2, $2.20, $2.40 mark, Greg, but I think the fixer will get out, only because he hasn't won a race for a while and people sort of start to forget about them. And I think there'll be a rally for him from the on-track punters who saw him win last year closer to time. But I don't think the Australian money's going to be divided. The Victorians will go for Sankalo. There'll be a smidgen for Cruz Bromack and our Uncle Sam. But there's also been very strong form from Spankham in Australia. Good during the Inter-Dominions, good during the Miracle Mile. I think he'll stay relatively solid. And what we've seen in recent years is often New Zealand Cup favourites have looked ridiculously short. They had Lazarus $1.40 sort of 2 weeks out from the race. But they've tended to stay that way, Greg. It's not like the Melbourne Cup where people will take their pick. It's very much a case where people will be guided because they don't know the harness horses that well, most of the Gallops punters. And there'll be a lot of Gallops punters playing into this. So they'll go for Pert and Rasmussen. They'll gravitate towards that. No different to people here betting on the Sydney Gallops, gravitating towards Chris Waller and James McDonald. So I reckon, Greg, the money will stick round about Spankham. Slight drift for the fixer, because there has to be a correction in the market. That's obviously at a far higher percentage than the total play, and the rest of them will bounce around. I don't see there being big money on the book for anything else outside the top two. Okay, we received a tweet earlier today coming out from Carter Dalgety, and he wants to know why there's not a barrier draw. You could probably have one for the Sire Stakes, given the significance of that race as well, and maybe that draw could be done after the Cup trial or maybe even live on this show, Michael. But it is our biggest race of the year, and I suppose having the draw done in-house, if you like, there's no argument that it's a fair draw and all of that sort of thing, but wouldn't you think that we possibly should be doing it more publicly and maybe getting some of the connections involved, and most of them are at the Cup trial today? I don't dislike the idea. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I'm not sure it's going to increase any turnover or create any more interest in the race, because we only really have barrier draws in this country for 2 races a year. That's the Karaka Million 2-year-old and 3-year-old. We don't have any public barrier draws. We're going to have one on the Sunday morning before the Inter-Dominion Pacing and Trotting finals. I don't mind the idea. It's incredibly hard, Greg, to get connections to go to them. Over a long period of time, you and I both emceed barrier draws, and it sounds like everybody would want to go to them, but it can be really hard unless you find the right day. And after a long day at the trials today, the last thing most of those horse people want to do, Greg, is do that, because you know how many times they moan when you ask them to do it. So, yeah, don't mind the idea. Don't see it happening in the future. I like the fact that barrier draws are done electronically, because there's less chance of there being a mistake and less chance of something going wrong, because you and I were both at a barrier draw for an Inter-Dominion Trotting final about 15 years ago when we got to the last horse and we had to do the whole thing again. Yep, I do recall that, Michael. But anyway, young Carter's come up with the idea, and good luck to him for thinking outside the square. Short break for us. We need to go back to Kaikoura, and the Dun Run continued at the South Bay Racecourse, and it was a magnificent day there. In fact, the 2 days were outstanding weather-wise, and I thought Matt Cross did a terrific job in his first crack at that. We'll be back to have a look at the other 2 features from Monday. Welcome back into your box seat, of course, with Woodland's Stud. And if you thought that Michael and I discussed wardrobe, you clearly know that we haven't, because we're both wearing blue, which looks like we're from, I don't know, maybe the local... And our producer said that with your grey hair, Gregory, you look like Papa Smurf. Oh, excellent. Which is the first funny of Cup Week. Well, I tell you what, it's fantastic to be in Christchurch and you're in Auckland for a change, because I don't have you in my ear the entire time. Right, let's move back to Kaikoura and go back to the Age Classic. Yes, the 15th running of this very good race, and
As we know now, it was a milestone for trainer Robert Dunn. If you're going to bring up one of those, trifectoring it can only make that result even bigger.
There's absolutely no uncertainty that there's 1,500 for Robert Dunn. It's Heisenberg by 2 on Stars tonight.
Congratulations to you, John. A very rare salute from you going over the line. Your dad's 1,500th winner. That's got to mean something.
Yeah, definitely, Greg. It sure does. Like his whole career, he's had great horses and done a great job for the industry, so he really deserves it.
Tell us about the run. He stepped away beautifully today. Didn't get a check at the start like last time, and you decided to pop out and around Stars tonight and drive him really positively. And 55 the last half, they couldn't get him.
No, they couldn't. Like I say, he got toughened up last year. He got beaten up a couple of times and keep bouncing back. So credit the horse. He loves it in front, and that's what he did today and rolled along nice.
There's a lot to look forward to with him leading into Cup Week next week. I guess the free-for-alls and those types of races and the 4-year-old races in the latter part of the season.
Yeah, that's right. It was just sort of play by ear. I'm not that keen to go Cup Day yet. Like he went really good at Ashburton. I might more go Show Day and might not take him up north either. There's a lot of races, nice races down here, and just poke along nicely with him and take our time this year.
Third win for you and your dad, Jivan Cullen, and of course Henry Hubert last year, and a big win for your stable. 1,500 wins, Robert Dunn. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks so much, Greg. And to go 1, 2, 3 is quite amazing. I think it's our first trifecta, isn't it, Johnny? Yeah, I think it might be.
Yeah, well, that's a massive result for you, and a rare salute from your son, showing just what it meant to him to win that race for you.
Absolutely, and he's as you know, he's a fantastic horseman. He's not underrated because everybody knows he's very, very talented, and he's got a terrific staff at Woody and Beach, and they've done a marvellous job. And looking forward to next Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think you've done a marvellous job to get to 1,500. Congratulations to you.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Yeah, huge day for the Dunns and for Ross and Angela Gordon. They've been big players for that stable and at the yearling sales. They got the job done with Henry Hubert last year. Now they've gone back to back, and I see Heisenberg is in on Cup Day. He'll take his place in race number 8, so they must be pleased with the way he's bounced off that, Michael.
Look, they must be, and I think it's a really, really interesting race because he's in a race where he can lead. An Amazing Dream, who's only a 3-year-old filly, is in the race. Now, she'll take a stack of money from the All-Stars, but she's going to need to be an awfully, awfully good 3-year-old filly to come around this horse and beat him. So how they market that and how they frame it up is going to be really interesting. Look, he's been a great trainer for as long as I can remember, Robert Dunn, and I don't know exactly how they train, but when I talk to other horse people about Robert and now John, because it's a quasi-partnership, whether they like that being known or not, clearly it is because Robert spends most of his time in the North Island. All the other horse people respect them, Greg. They always say, "Oh, wow, their horses look great," and they drive them tough. They're not scared to stay in front of the blue colours. So there's plenty of pluses here, Greg. You and I had a conversation a couple of years ago on Yearling Sales Day when they attacked the Yearling Sales and they weren't scared to go to 6 figures. And we said then, Greg, that's going to stand by them in the next 2 or 3 years. And we see that this week in the Sire Stakes. They have a horse in the Sire Stakes who can win. They have horses in these races. They had 5 in the Cup last year. Now, some of those horses don't come through the Yearling Sales, Greg, but it's really hard to get people to go to the Yearling Sales unless you're positive. And harness racing can really be negative sometime, and I know it's a bloody hard game for people. But because Robert is so positive and John's so hard working, I think some Yearling Sales buyers will gravitate towards them, Greg. And that's where all this starts. You need the skill. Clearly you need the skill. But if you can't train, the Yearling Sales don't matter. And if you don't have anything nice coming through the Yearling Sales, training, well, doesn't matter as much either. So they've got a nice combination of that going. And I think John deserves a lot of the credit for maybe 300, Greg, of those 1,500 winners.
Yep, totally agree with that. OK, they finished 2nd, 3rd, and of course the All-Stars were 4th. So let's find out what those drivers thought. Gavin, he's really stepped up today.
Yeah, he has, Greg. He just last time in he was a bit mentally weak and put a wee step in here and there and was a bit angry. This time in he's just a different horse. Like he wants to do it. He's happy to be there and he's racing a lot kinder. So super effort today and awesome to be a part of a trifecta for RJ getting the 1,500.
He's pretty underrated, this guy.
Yeah, no, definitely, Greg. Especially if he gets the right trip. He's got that real Cullen speed, and today he was able to step nice and and put himself in a soft spot and, you know, finish the race off well. You know, so be it, he got beaten a wee margin. He never give it away on a 55 half, and, you know, credit to RJ and Johnny, they, you know, thoroughly deserved the chocolates they got today, so, you know, hats off to them.
Mark, he appeared to have every chance.
Yeah, he really didn't handle the track that great, Greg, and I really struggled to get him around the last corner, and the leaders had gone, so he ran up the straight pretty good. You know, they were gone, and as I say, he could have handled the track better.
He's still doing a good job, though, and he'll go on with it from here.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yes, and mobile starts probably suit him good too, where he's got good gate speed.
He'll get his chance on Cup Day as well because he's in the last race and he's got barrier 1, so you can expect to see him in front. And I'm picking a few multis might be finishing on Taxman come Tuesday. All right, let's go to the South Bay Trotters Cup with Majestic Sun, the 21st running of this. And there was a move about 400 metres earlier than this from Destiny Jones, Michael, that I think gave Habibi into just the breather he needed at the right time.
Yeah, I agree. He was able to come out after that, and Blair had driven him beautifully to come over the top of them. This is not going to be a form race for either the free-for-all or the Dominion, Greg, but he's a horse who's won a Jules, and he's going to maybe win into Dominion Heat, or he's going to be a factor somewhere, Greg. Somewhere in his life, there's going to be another Group 1, an Anzac Cup or something like that. But Greg, after what I saw at the Cup trials today and what we've seen from Kaikoura at Ashburton, all our trotting conversations are based around 3 horses. 2 of them, extremely positive. 1, Sunday Sun, I didn't see the trial today, but not so positive. Bad barrier draw this week, galloped the last couple of starts, and then I believe he galloped again today.
Yeah, that's right, and we'll get a chance to have a look at that very shortly, Michael. The Northern Raiders who are looking to come down, we are going to have a look for Paramount King, and of course his stablemate Sartorius will also be there. This was a really interesting race last Friday night because subsequent to this, and we'll get to see that as well, last night at Cambridge, the 2 horses flashing down the outside. Massive Metro, who was really good in Temporale, lined up again. But Paramount King has made his way into the free-for-all field, and they've taken a long time to get him back to his best, Michael, but that was a pretty positive drive and a very good win.
Yeah, they felt they had the horse right last week, and he hadn't been right for much of the last 18 months, and he drove him like he was the horse who had the handicap advantage, and he won the race with the drive, did Josh. Second and third really good, went to Cambridge last night, we'll show you that in a sec. But I think with Paramount King, the key here, Greg, is being smart enough to know what's going on around you. Both Josh and John are pretty smart. They took our horse to the Breeders' Crown and won because they knew what they'd be up against wasn't as good as other people thought. And that's the case in this free-for-all. All of a sudden, this isn't a sexy, cool Markula, Oscar Bonavina, Habibi into free-for-all. This is a free-for-all which has maybe a enigmatic Sunday Sun, a really good Australian and tough Monarch, and Greg, a bunch of horses who you wouldn't be terrified of. They're still very good horses, but they're not terrifying. So good on them for having a crack. They can go down there, they can race the second day because he's not harshly rated, Greg. But this is being aware of what's going on around you, and Josh and John are both very good at that. Here's Cambridge last night, only a 4-horse field. Le Monde has had a few issues recently for Ross Painter, and he ends up galloping and getting out of play. Massive Metro second, Temporale third. That was the stalk for the rest of the race, and then Temporale at his best, Greg, is in the best 5 trotters in the country. He's won a Rowe Cup, we know that. And if he holds together during an Interdominion, Greg, and that's the key factor because he is on the beach there, as we see Le Monde gallop. He's on the beach alongside Massive Metro, being basically trained by Michelle Wallace and Bernie Hackett. So these 2 are basically stablemates. So Massive Metro leads up Temporale to the tearaway leader, Greg, and this reminds us what a good horse Temporale is. Let's not forget last February, well actually January it was, he ran second, not beaten by much, in the Great Southern Star. The question for me, Greg, is whether his body can hold on for an entire 4-race Interdominion series.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a challenge for him. He got to the outside of Massive Metro here and they went at it, went past Gershwin, as you would expect them to, but his winning time off the 50 metres he was, wasn't he? 40 or 40 metres might have been Massive Metro. His winning time was 4:05, so when you consider that, yes, they'll possibly go faster in the Dominion, it was a pretty good run, although, as we know, it was a warm day and Cambridge could be a fast track, but Tony Cameron got the business done with him, and that's a confidence-boosting performance again from him and from Massive Metro, who, on the quick backup, I don't know that would have been ideal for him, given the preparation he's had, because he has had a few problems too. But good to see both of those trotters back in form and getting themselves ready for what will be a terrific IRT Inter-Dominion series. Let's go to the trotting trial from today, though, and one of those horses that we keep on talking about is Sunday Sun, and he finds himself sitting in third position on the showgrounds bend and rolls into a gallop. Now that's significant, Michael, because he's been galloping in the straights, but we'll get to see him get back down into his trotting gait. That's Tough Monarch in front. Now he rolled straight to the front and it was a demolition job. You'll see Sunday Sun further back in the field there, gets into the straight this time, and John's just sitting there nursing him along, gets a little bit rough, goes to go past Majestic Hurricane, and he rolls into a gallop again. So that was disappointing, but what wasn't was the win of Tough Monarch. Spoke to Anthony Butt, there he is galloping over the line. He said, geez, handled the trip well, he's in wonderful form, he's got good gate speed, he's got a barrier, and we find him the favourite for the trotting free-for-all on Tuesday.
Yeah, when they nominated this horse and thought about bringing him about 2 months ago, you wouldn't have possibly thought he could be favourite for this race. Oscar Bonavina, Sunday Sun was charging, and of course Kaikoura, let alone Habibi Inter. All of a sudden, Greg, you turn up, you can win because you can't win when you can't. So, look, he's going to be a huge chance. Good mobile horse. I think he'll go forward and potentially lead this race. But Sunday Sun, no one's got a pot on the horse. We all know how good he is and sometimes even great. And clearly he can win. But that does absolutely nothing for anybody's confidence, Greg. In fact, we've seen nothing in the last month that does anything for our confidence. And barrier 1 on the second line is the worst possible draw for him. So, look, he might be $4.50 on the day. You might want $8 to back him. You're not going to get it. And it's getting harder and harder to make excuses for him. So I'll be interested in the thoughts, Greg, you got from Robert Dunn.
The challenge continues.
Yeah, it does, Greg. Look, it was disappointing today. He looked, Johnny said he was trotting really good, but he wasn't carrying himself well. So we've got to look at the, how his head carriage is. He felt he was really sound now, which is good. But boy, oh boy, some work over the next 4 or 5 days to get him right. He's just gone back to how he was.
What are the options then? You have a look at what weight he's carrying for a start, and I guess the potential is there to have the half hobbles on again.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to get him back to trotting all the way. So, you might detract a bit from his speed and a bit from, it won't detract from his stamina, but maybe his speed. But really got to look at all that, and half hobbles is definitely an option. And it's, today he broke in 2 different places. And I watched him coming down the straight, and Johnny was sitting on him. He was just cruising, and he just tucked his head down and dropped out of his gear. So it's back to the old Sunny of old. So we just try and get it out of his system again.
Johnny's got a few challenges as well inside second row. I know you probably haven't had a chance to analyse the field, but that wouldn't seem ideal either.
No, that won't. But the only advantage there would be he doesn't have to bustle him early, because I think the one horse will trot out early. He's got real high speed, so if he can just follow him through, it'll be nice. He seems to settle in the field, which is good, because he was relaxed today, and he is relaxed now, so that's a bonus too. So it could work out bad, but I've got a feeling it could be, the way he's going, quite a good draw for him.
So trying to get a positive out of that, the ever-positive Robert Dunn. Let's go to Oscar Bonavina's trial, and Winterfell is in this, and he goes into the free-for-all from the outside draw on Tuesday. That's him coming wide on the track, and he pulled very hard, but Mark Purdon asked me after the trials, what were the sectionals there, and I told him how quick they went, Michael. 56.5, 27.9, and he just launched down the back from about the 900 to the 700. He just went straight past them, straight to the lead, and yeah, he won. Winterfell was good. Bonnie Highlander was the done runner in that. Majestic Man was okay. But Oscar Bonavina, he is in the right form. Came off the 30 metres, 3:22. Nice trial for his build towards the Dominion with Air Park Canterbury.
Look, the sectionals weren't greatly different, Greg. They were inside a second different from the pacing trial today. And obviously Spankum's a Miracle Mile winner. So we keep saying that some of these horses have speed like paces. They never do. Trotters never have speed like paces in this part of the world. But what we're saying is they wouldn't be disgraced in a pacing race, or at least away from open class. I'm not saying he's immoral in the Dominion for two reasons, Greg. We know that the Dominion start's going to be a whole new kettle of fish for him. A whole bunch of horses mucking around and compacted together. He could draw the second line, which probably wouldn't be a disaster, to be honest. But Marcoola's absolutely flying, and the best version of Marcoola we saw at Ashburton was unbelievable in this race last year, Greg. So it's going to be a hell of a race. I hope Sunday Sun comes back to his best. I don't want to be backing him to do so, but if they launch like that, and both horses are horses who like to be launched, as not driven cold, but just absolutely launched at some stage of a race, if they take off down the back straight, this could be the closest thing we've had in a long time to our version, and I don't want to be sacrilege here, Greg, but our version of our Waverley Star and Bone Crusher. Two really good horses, maybe great horses, in the zone going together, because they would probably gap the rest of them, Greg. I think they've got 3 or 4 lengths on most of this field. It almost certainly won't happen, because it almost certainly never does, Greg. But the potential's there for a mouth-watering Dominion. We'll discuss it another time, how that affects this free-for-all market, because you and I both have the same views on this. We're not seeing the best horses. This is a $100,000 Group 1 race you're looking at. And, well, make of that what you will. Tough Monarch's the favourite, Greg, and thank God the Australians are here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have them here. And of course, further down the page, we'll find McLovin for Andy and Kate Gath. And McLovin's a $7 chance, crawled a little bit by the draw, but in wonderful form, the winner of 17 races now. And yeah, that'll certainly add something to it, because I'm sure that he will be put in the race. All right, we need to take another break here on your box seat. When we come back, it is Macmillan Equine Feed Sires Stakes preview time. Let's have a look at that cracking contest for 2019. It's our own stallion-making race. It is the Macmillan Equine Feeds Sires Stakes, and one change. Many of the Sires Stakes contenders trialled today. That's him popping out of the 1-1 here for Natalie Rasmussen. And well, he was previously unbeaten up until last heat, when he was beaten by Flying Even Better, but he charged home here, got past Flying Even Better and won nicely.
Between them, Amazing Dream, the inside Wainui Creek, the outside One Change. They come to the post. One Change, I think. I got it wrong last time, but I think this time he's got it by a nose.
That was also Amazing Dream wider out on the track, and it won't be too long. Those videos will be available for you on HRNZ, so you can go through them yourself. But One Change was certainly very good, so let's hear what Natalie Rasmussen had to say about him. Natalie, talk me through the trial.
Oh, look, he had a really good trip. Just went quietly off the gate. Ended up 1-1 behind Flying Even Better. Nice run home, you know. It was just a nice sort of dash up the straight. Probably wouldn't have minded a little bit harder trial for him, but that was good.
In terms of his preparation, you're expecting him to be at fever pitch for Tuesday, and he's got a good barrier of 2.
Yeah, he is. Like, I think he's a little colt and he's a stocky little guy, so I'm sure the runs would have done him well. Like, now he's had the 2 starts plus another trial today. I expect him to be pretty good. 2's a good draw. You've got plenty of options. You know, if you want to get amongst them early, you can, or if you want to just sit in, you can.
57.8, 27.3, so pretty good closing sectionals there. 2.10 for One Change. That was Wainui Creek running second, so she's a good chance when that mares race on Friday, show day. Flying Even Better, okay. Copy that, quite nice, running on and behind them. Spoke to Blair Orange, he was wrapped in a lineup I've always been keen on. He's a $21 chance with Anthony Butt to drive. The other trialist out of the day, Italian Lad, trialled nicely earlier in the day. Michael Aquasancta was a winner, home in 57.5, 27.1. So there's a few that went around today, so you're going to have to review those trials and have a good look through those. But One Change has been a massive winner barrier draw-wise.
Greg, I couldn't pick up from the commentary there. Was that lineup sitting back on the fence in that trial?
Yes, it was, yeah. So
okay.
On the face of it, when you look at that, he didn't look that good, but I didn't get a chance to grab Anthony Butt and see. He flew back to Australia only a couple of hours after that trial.
That didn't turn me on that much. I really like the horse, and I think he's naturally really fast, but when I said earlier, you like to see your horses go even good or okay at the trials. You just don't want to see them lacking. Maybe that's not his go sitting back on the fence, but I thought he'd be better than a $21 chance. Maybe we'll analyse that and speak to Ray Green during the week leading up to Tuesday. So we'll have lots of information coming in, Greg. Of course, Matt's going to be on track for his first cup, and good luck to you, Matt. You, I, the Whale, and Cassie Fahey's joining us from Sky in Australia, returning home, the prodigal daughter of Canterbury Harness Racing. So there'll be lots of information coming up, Greg, and a preview show on Monday night. So we'll have lots of time to talk to people like Ray and see what he made of that trial.
Yep, certainly 7:30 Monday evening for that 90-minute preview show where we'll analyse all of the races, but in particular the big three, the Group 1s. But let's go back to Kaikoura and a pretty special moment. Overzealous, the horse they call Panda in front, Peter Davis doing the steering, and she tried all the way up the straight and gave the big crowd plenty to talk about post-race.
Behind an Idle Moose very late. Overzealous, Idle Moose the outside, Esmok the inside. Oh, this'll melt your heart. Overzealous beat home Idle Moose.
That's got to be a huge thrill. Last time Pete was winning, of course, was aboard this mare way back in January. That seems like an eternity ago.
It does seem an eternity. You know, it's Pete's first one back after only 4 drives, so I'm sure he'll be stoked.
Gee, she's brave. Once she found the front, though, she hates other horses running past her, so you must have been confident.
Yeah, no, I kind of was, but then Johnny came round and he kind of looked at her a bit and I think, oh, Johnny, go away. But yeah, no, hey, she is tough. She doesn't like anything getting past her, so no, she's got a great attitude and a good will to win.
All right, and of course she's come back. She's had a placing and now a win. Where does she go next? Because I think you're going to have a few options with her.
Yeah, she'll go Cup Day. Not sure which race. Maybe the 2 mile or probably 10 or maybe the 70, 17 faster, but she'll be the Cup Day, yeah.
She's such a special horse, and when we consider what she went through back in February, to be as game and to show it on the racetrack like she does, it's a real credit to her, isn't it?
Oh, she's just, like I said, she's just got the will to do it. She's got a bit of a skunky attitude at home, but that makes her what she is. She wants to do it, and yeah, she plays us around a bit at home, but yeah, we kind of managed to get her caught some days to get her worked and get her the races, and hey, here we are today.
I know it's an awesome feeling for you. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Yeah, awesome for Margot, and of course Pete Davis back in the winner's circle. Talking about winner's circle, first winning training-wise, we've had a few just recently, so I thought we'd better roll them all in together. Here's Vintage Beach getting the business done at Forbury Park for the Robertsons, Peter and Mitchell, so congratulations to them. That's win number 1 for them on the board, and they grabbed the Quinella there too, so that was a great result too, so nice work for them. And there is Mitchell Robertson. He's been around the traps for a wee while, so nice work there. Kimberly Butt got the business done as well, and great to see her in the training ranks and finding her first winner. Her partner Johnny Cox, of course, getting the win here with Lennox Bromack at Forbury Park. Gets up the passing lane here, and Kimberly in those colours grabbed her first training success, so nice work for her. And Johnny drove this one expertly, had been racing pretty well, and the win was never going to be too far away. And the other first up training success, I think he's only had about 7 or 8 starters, there's Kimberly, was Benjamin Button for Salish Abernathy, who's a Group 1 winning driver, as we know. Got to the outside at the Manawa 2 and grabbed his first training success, so nice work there. Some young people getting involved in the training ranks, and we always like to see them grab the first of those wins. The Fast 10, which is coming up at Addington Raceway in December. News out about that as well. I think it starts about 11 o'clock in the morning, or maybe 11:30, and goes for about 2.5 hours. So, yeah, there'll be some more details come out post-Cup time with regards to that. All right, what's ahead for us in the Harness Week that we have building into Cup Week, of course. In the Cargill, $25,000 pick 6, 8 races starting there. Thursday, 3:05, the first of those. Rangiora have a twilight, finishes about 20 to 8. That's hardly fair on Matthew Crosses, the eve of his first calling week in Cup Week. 11 races though, 2:16 the start time for that. Cambridge have 9 races just after 6 o'clock, $30,000 fast track insurance pick 6 there on Friday night. We go to Wyndham on Saturday, 12:02, the first of 10 races. Sorry, it's Sunday there. 12:02 the start time for that one. And the box seat preview for you on Monday. What about Cup Week and what you can look forward to in terms of the coverage for you? Monday we have that 90-minute special. I think I said 7:30 before, my apologies. It's 7 o'clock the start time for that. There's a Calcutta at the Yoldhurst Hotel for the West Melton Rugby boys. There's always pretty popular. 11 a.m. will be the preview for the Cup with myself, the Big Fish, and of course Michael Guerin. A whole lot of information there for you on the day. And then the replays will fit into our box seat slot at 8:30 along with the interviews from Cup Day. And then we'll be into Dominion Day with Air Park Canterbury, featuring, of course, Mark Cooler, Sunday Sun and Oscar Bonavina. Our Woodlands winner of the week was Virgil. What a cracking contest this was. Virgil was in front, hadn't won for a wee while, Michael, but held off Mark Da Vinci, who looked like it was going to go past in what was a really stirring finish. And, of course, down to the bone, had missed away, Michael. In terms of the size stakes, outside of his inside second row draw, that was a terrific run from him.
Look, it was, and it's indicative of these Purden Rasmussen 3-year-olds. They may dominate, Greg, but I don't think they're as dominant heading into this size stakes as some of the recent ones. We've seen a Lazarus type horse or some of the others, the Chase Aucklands, even in the Auckland Reactors going back over the years, Greg. So I think there's a spirit of hope there for some of the rival trainers. So Greg, of course, plenty of people who would love to be going to Cup Day. Not everybody can make it. They might have commitments at home, they might be working, or there might just be someone who can't get there this year. Stick with us on the day. We're going to try and give you some of the best coverage of the year, and we'll try and give you all the inside information to back a winner, Greg. So we're going to not muck around. We're going to try and get right in there. Cassie's going to be down the stables getting the feeling and the emotion and the immediacy of Cup Day, Greg. Of all the race meetings I go to for the year, it's in my top two. There's Cup Day for the harness and there's Karaka Million for the gallops. They are the big two. One of those big two is coming up on Tuesday.
All right, let's try and build a bank for them, Michael. Last week was a disgrace. I think we can bounce back this week. On with Stavros the Terror in race number 2 tomorrow at Invercargo. I know he'll only be paying $2, but you can start multiing up, Michael, with those markets open for Cup Day, and you're with Kelly's Delight.
Greg, this should be called, this section, the scratchings, because the way we're picking at the moment, my friend, although you did it for $9 winner a while ago, yeah, fair to say, we haven't been red hot. There's the Big Fish, the people looking for his winners out there at Kaikoura, Gregory, and yep, we return from the picture-perfect track there to the biggest star of them all on Tuesday. Looking forward to it, Greg. It's going to be a lot of fun. As I said, to everybody who can't be there, we'll make sure you feel like you are. Join us from 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning.
Yep, thanks so much for your input tonight. Michael, looking forward to the build-in to the massive day, which is Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup Day. Don't forget your tickets, addington.co.nz. Still a few of those available as well. We will catch you with the preview on Monday evening from 7 o'clock. Enjoy your harness racing week ahead.